Okay, I have taken a break, had some calming chicken soup, and now we can talk about this. I'm going to break this down into a couple of subsections: Kevin, Gwen, Max, Ben, and the writers. Was Kevin's decision to absorb the Ultimatrix wise? No. But to be fair, there wasn't really any other way. Kevin knew what the power would do to him and how it would probably result in Ben or Gwen or the plumbers having to do something about it. Kevin even said that Ben was a wuss not to kill him. Not my favorite line, but the point is he knew that there was probably no turning back from that point. Therefore, he did technically make a sacrifice to stop Agregor. But no one ever talks about that. It also upsets me that this whole incident wasn't really treated as an arc for Kevin, which it should have been, but let's talk about that more in the writers section. Ben constantly goes on about the time limit on this whole situation, but when Gwen finds him, Kevin's just kind of pacing about, muttering to himself. You could argue he was plotting his next attack, but I think it would have been cool if the real Kevin and Monster Kevin were arguing internally, and maybe real Kevin was causing Monster Kevin to hold back, which is why despite Ultimate Kevin being crazy, there weren't that many deaths. Manny and Helen weren't confirmed dead, and Barry was only hospitalized. Severe injuries, yes, but he was kept alive. The only person you can say Kevin killed was Morg because he thought he had killed him. Maybe not even normal Kevin could let that hatred go. And technically Archit, but like who wouldn't kill Archit? The things Kevin was saying, like Gwen doesn't truly care about him, telling his stepdad that he knew his mom never loved his dad, were obviously wrong, but they were coming from deep down inside Kevin. They were his insecurities. But best believe they're not addressed again. Also, the fact that not even his monster side could properly hate Gwen, the fact that he used what little was left of his will to stop himself from hurting Gwen in the enemy of my enemy. These facts weren't used properly. These moments were proof that Kevin was still in there, therefore Gwen was not irrational for wanting to save him. The final thing is that while he wasn't in control, he remembers what he did when he was in his monster form. Imagine coming to your senses and having to accept what you did, atone, and make amends. Amends? Now that would be too consequential, and the writers couldn't have that. I personally don't think she really did that much wrong in these episodes, aside from when she blamed Ben for Kevin going crazy. But other than that, she didn't really do anything wrong. There's a whole Ultimate Kevin debate within the fandom where people are mainly arguing Ben was in the wrong or Ben was in the right. Gwen isn't often discussed, but when she is, it's thought in a positive light. People call her irrational or irritating, but from what I've explained and what I'm about to highlight, she reacted to the situation properly. I think it was really unfair that both Ben and Max were talking to her like she was being too naive and didn't want to hear her out. Maybe from a certain perspective, it's easy to say that Kevin's out of control and needs to be killed, but it's almost like everyone on the show forgot how much Gwen loves Kevin. People in the fandom are on some, oh, Gwen was too irritating here, she should have just let Ben do his job. She only stood in his way because she's Kevin's girlfriend. I'm sorry, does she need a better reason? As people have rightfully pointed out, things would have gone very differently if Julie was in Kevin's position. It was truly disrespectful of Ben to ask her to help him kill the man she loves, and infuriating to watch Max tell her to just step aside and let it happen. It's also irritating because Gwen isn't the only person in this series who loves or cares about Kevin, or at least she shouldn't be. Ben and Max made it seem like they'd never even met Kevin during this whole arc, but we'll talk about them later. It was also Gwen's plan that saved Kevin, her plan that fixed things despite Ben constantly telling her otherwise. Let me say this again because some people out there are confused. Yes, Gwen fought as hard as she did because she loves Kevin, as anyone would if they were in her shoes, but it was also her love for Kevin that fueled her determination to cure him, to save him, and she did so like the queen she is. She cured Kevin. I think the fandom keeps forgetting this. In the end, not only does no one thank her, but Ben still takes the glory on some, this was a team effort. Ben also never apologized for literally beating her up, refusing to hear her out, and shutting her down even when her plan was working. By the way, despite wanting to protect Kevin, Gwen held back in her fight with Ben. Listen, we know what this girl is capable of, but she never severely injured Ben. Ben, on the other hand, my point is that she didn't make up an excuse to hurt her cousin like Ben does. Ben uses the I have to do what's needed or something to cause unnecessary pain to his cousin as if he didn't have the choice. But he did have a choice, but let's talk about that when we get to the Ben section. Gwen also fought the hardest to cure Kevin. By the end, Ben barely has any scratches, but Gwen's all beaten and bruised. She constantly put herself in danger to help Kevin, but no, let's get smoothies. Let's not try to fix the damage to Gwen's house. Let's not check if she's okay emotionally and physically. Let's not at the very least invite her for smoothies. No, let's completely ignore her existence and go get smoothies. What? They even have the gall to have Kevin and Ben have this interaction where it's like they were apologizing without saying sorry. And that's all fine and all, but where was the apology to Gwen? Where are her thanks? That was literally so unfair on her. And yeah, the smoothies thing was just a joke, but has anyone heard of comedic timing? This is not the time nor the place. There wasn't a moment in these episodes that Gwen gave up on Kevin, and this is the freaking thanks she gets? There really is one thing I found to be particularly disgusting with the way Max behaved in these episodes, and that's when you think about the episode Vendetta. Remember that one? Remember how Max's old partner, Devin Levin, Kevin's dad, died saving Max's life? Okay.
And I'd put him down like a mad dog.
Could you just imagine Devin watching from Osmosia in heaven, thinking, what in the ever-loving hell is wrong with this guy? Yeah, I'll talk about this in the next subsection, but I hated how little sensitivity there was towards this. Like, I hate the use of the mad dog metaphor, but even then, having to put down your dog for whatever reason isn't fun. And also, just in case you forgot, Kevin isn't a dog. There should have been some sense of hesitation or reluctancy that wasn't present enough in Max or Ben. Honestly, that line alone was enough to make me dislike Max's character. You could say I'm overreacting, but how would you feel if your best friend mentioned something about killing your child without any hesitation? And then after it's all over, Max turns around and is all buddy-buddy with Kevin again. Okay, so one of the things that influenced my decision to make a Ben 10 video was finding this video and reading the comments. There was a whole debate going on in there. Quite a few people took Ben's side. I suggest you watch the video and read the comments because I won't really be calling out anyone I disagreed with. I'll get back to that video in just a moment. I think these episodes ruined Ben's character for me. The best way for me to explain it is that he's extremely self-righteous, causing him to be unable to truly see his mistakes, and therefore he becomes hypocritical. The perfect example of this is how he's out there beating up Forever Knight's Aunt Volcanus and fighting his cousin instead of just hearing her out. He said he was done arguing, but I can assure you he wasn't listening. We saw Kevin fight his impulse and not kill Gwen. She knows he can still be saved, but no, Ben knows everything. At some point he also says something about how he let the fame go to his head or something. Ben's fame has nothing to do with what's happening with Kevin. That's another irritating thing. This isn't about Ben. Not really. Ben shouldn't go on about all the ways he's messed up. Why wasn't he talking about Kevin and Kevin's growth? Why are we talking about Ben? In the fight that Ben and Gwen have, Ben could have simply transformed into Jet Ray or something and flown away, but instead he stuck around and fought Gwen. He's also unnecessarily mean to Gwen, like when she literally went through her boyfriend, the guy she loves, trying to kill her and cause her significant pain. All he could do was tell her, I told you so.
It didn't work, Michael. Kevin's just as dangerous as ever.
Huh. And I thought for sure you'd be able to just talk him out of his mindless revenge spree.
And it's this business of making it seem like Gwen's being irrational. Also, Gwen's time resulted in the energy being restored and the 5 aliens coming back. If Ben had killed Kevin, would the same thing have happened? When Gwen told him the plan, he says he's only going through with it because he knows it will fail. By the way, he had given up on Kevin from the first of these 4 episodes. He doesn't have a moment where he tries to talk Kevin down or appeal to him. He doesn't have a moment where he seems reluctant to kill him. He also goes back on his word to Gwen and causes significant pain to Kevin. It's a miracle Kevin didn't die. And he was going to do even more, but Gwen finally got through to him. And then it's the fact that there's all this nonsense of Ben doesn't kill, Ben doesn't leave anyone behind. What's this? It's also more insulting in an episode like Perplexahedron, where there's this odd moment of Ben and Kevin talking about how far they've come. Why are we not seeing that here? Ben has no moment where he acknowledges he and Kevin are friends. He sees Ultimate Kevin and his mind just goes to murder. And I already know what you're thinking. Oh, it had to be done. Ben was just being responsible. I get it. I get that Kevin was going on a rampage, but I'm sorry. It's not a good enough excuse for Ben's behavior. From the moment Kevin left them at the Forge of Creation, Ben was bitter. He wasn't concerned, he wasn't conflicted, he was angry. Another reason why the killing him thing didn't feel noble or responsible. It felt like Ben was angry and he was taking that anger out on everyone, including Kevin. I'm literally racking my brain on why this could be. It doesn't actually make any sense. Ben says it's his fault that Kevin absorbed the power because he couldn't defeat Agregor. And I just have to say, get over it. It's not a good enough excuse. Yeah, you messed up in the Forge of Creation, but why take that anger out on the person who actually saved the universe? Yes, he went crazy in the process, but it was better than Agregor winning. And it's the fact that Ben massively screwed up in Perplexahedron, but his team didn't beat him up about it. I get that Ben had to eventually realize that there was only one way to stop Kevin, but it wasn't like a gradual realization. It wasn't like he didn't want to accept it and then later on had to come to terms with what he'd have to do. He was set on killing Kevin from the word go. We never got a moment where we saw concern, where we saw him want to actually help his friend, the person he called his older brother. It's also so ridiculous that we get lines about the Alien series like, it's in my best interest to help those who need it, or no one gets left behind, when he couldn't acknowledge that Kevin was in need of help when he didn't try to help Kevin out. Also, I get Kevin was on a rampage, but it's odd that the team has never killed someone on the show. Villains get thrown into the null void, escape, wreak havoc, then get thrown back in the null void, wash, rinse, repeat. Now all of a sudden all we can think of is killing. Also, there's literally an episode not far from here where a plumber is literally under attack but does not kill his assailant because plumbers don't kill. So what's this? Not to mention that killing Kevin is the easy option. Okay, obviously killing someone isn't easy, but for the sake of argument, we'll call it the easy option because there isn't really that much thought that needs to go into it. There isn't any contemplation, creativity, or critical thinking required to solve the solution. We don't see Ben make the effort to try to find a solution that doesn't require killing Kevin. Ben never put in any effort to think of a solution that didn't require him killing Kevin, his best friend. He also meets Kevin's stepdad and feels nothing for the fact that he's about to kill his son. How do you look a man in the eyes, then proceed to try and kill his son? The fact that Ben felt nothing about almost killing his best friend after all of that is shocking. Back to that video. There was a specific comment that I liked that I want to talk about. But before that, let me address something that I keep seeing throughout this comment section. Okay. So, killing people does not make you a badass. I hate that I have to say that. People like to gas Ben up in UA discussions because of how close he's come to killing people. Like, wow, look how cool he is. It's not a good thing to murder someone, especially when that person is your best friend. Why do I need to say that? Why is it something that I need to make a point of addressing in this video? Like right now, I'm addressing all the people out there who watched Ben try and murder his bestie. Not just any bestie, but a character who you've come to know and love and thought, wow, Ben's so cool. He's so badass. No, he's not. That's not an argument, it's a fact. The word hero is sometimes difficult to define, but I know killing your best friend doesn't make you one. Okay, so the comment. And we say only Kevin lost his sanity. Thank you, random person, because we really don't talk about this enough. Ben also went crazy here, and he didn't have the same excuse as Kevin. Kevin could not control his impulses as easily. Ben could. What Kevin did throughout this arc wasn't great, but he wasn't fully conscious. Ben was. He was conscious as he beat up Forever Knights, Volcanus, and his own cousin. He was conscious as he tried to murder his supposed best friend. He was also in control when he put all those plumbers in training at risk. He didn't even feel guilty about that. We're all out here asking how destructive Kevin was during his arc. Could we stop and take a moment to think about how many people Ben either harmed or put in harm's way?
How delicious.
Hello, this is Future Me. I've just been editing the first part of the Ben 10 summary and found something very interesting. I know I didn't talk in depth about the episode Pet Project, but in it, Ship turns evil through no fault of his own, which is why he was attacking the team and Julie. Swampfire is about to make the perfect shot to stop Ship, but Julie begs him not to. Kevin, who is currently holding an unconscious Gwen who was injured in Ship's attack, urges Ben to take the shot, but Julie begs him not to, and so, as a compromise, he doesn't shoot Ship but rather creates a wall of fire around the team. He looked for a solution to the problem that didn't involve killing Ship for Julie's sake. So for all of you out there saying Ben wasn't in the wrong here, just remember this episode and enjoy the rest of the video. There was so much potential for this arc. I won't even lie, the setup throughout the season was pretty good. You can't excuse it by saying there was a time limit. There were 4 episodes dedicated to this whole plotline. There was no excuse to create this. Kevin's stepdad trying to appeal to him could have been great, but unfortunately, we didn't see any of him or his relationship with Kevin prior to this or even after this. I'm not even upset that Harvey's a CEJ. I'm mad. We didn't see Kevin make up with his dad afterwards. We didn't really see him make up with anyone. Is he just supposed to go back to his house with his mom and his stepdad after all he said to him? By the way, both his mom and dad don't show up again. And I don't want to hear, oh, it's just a kid's show. None of that. Having lasting consequences or at least a proper resolution is the bare minimum. Honestly, this whole plot point made me struggle to take this show seriously. Because like the classic series was silly, goofy. It knew what it needed to be in each moment, but this series was really trying to be mature. It was trying to be darker than its predecessor. They're out here killing people off, major injuries, trying to kill people, but then they just drop the ball. You can't incorporate mature and complex themes into a kids show without proper storytelling. You want to murder people? Fine, cool, great. But don't use the excuse of, oh, is this a silly kids show? We don't need to follow this up. We don't need to discuss consequences. Another irritating thing is that almost every choice the writers make in this episode were deliberate by the time you're meeting Agragor's aliens. They chose to make Agragor an Osmosian, creating parallels between him and Kevin. They had Paradox foreshadow Kevin's turn. They had that oddly paced interaction between Ben and Kevin where they discussed their friendships in Perplexahedron. All that set up only to forget its existence and completely ruin these characters before our eyes. If they knew for so long where the season was going, what was the excuse for not sticking the landing with the ending? The parallels between Agragor and Kevin could have been used with Agragor following a similar arc to Kevin. He could have appealed to Kevin because he was just where Kevin was. He doesn't need to have some redemption arc, but he could appeal to Kevin Osmosian to Osmosian, something that, remember, Kevin's never actually gotten. He's never had an Osmosian to guide him and help him. Just as Kevin tried to appeal to Agragor early in the season, Agragor could have appealed to Kevin since he knows how horrible it felt not to truly be in control. Paradox tells him to remember who his friends are. It would have been so interesting to see him hold on to that advice and maybe remember all the good times he's had with his friends. The conversation he and Ben had in the Perplexahedron and other moments over the course of the show come back, and he uses those moments to remember who his friends are and release his rage. Also, imagine if Devin had gone through something similar when he was younger, and Kevin's mother knew about it and helps Kevin let go of his rage. There were literally so many ways to resolve this arc. It's like the writers didn't realize the impact of this whole storyline. Good lord, even when I was grown and watched this last year, this messed me up. Regardless of how silly I found the show, I formed an attachment to these characters, and then for all of that to just be over and to be taken out like this, it wasn't it. I don't feel like the audience was truly considered or even respected throughout this whole arc. Newsflash, we like Kevin. Some people like Ben, present company excluded. Ben's character was ruined during this arc. People like to disagree here, but it was. Ben is supposed to be a hero. Just think for a moment. Just think about your favorite classic superheroes like Superman or Spider-Man. They don't kill. If they do kill, it's addressed properly in terms of the guilt and the burden that this kind of thing puts on someone. I get that we're getting more nuanced anti-heroes these days like Deadpool and characters from The Boys, but even then the writers are deliberate in how the main characters kill. Like Deadpool wouldn't just shoot some random woman on the street. Turning one of of your main characters into a murder doesn't sit right with all viewers. Almost killing one of the best characters on the show isn't going to leave audiences in the right mood, especially for your season finale. Gwen's boyfriend nearly killed her. He caused her significant pain, and we just have to move on from that and believe that Gwen's okay. But think for a moment about how traumatic of an experience that is. Ben was ready to become a murderer, not just murdering some rando on the street, his best friend, and he showed no remorse or regret afterwards. Don't include stuff in a kid's show like this if you can't properly write a conclusion. Other alternatives the writers could have taken is perhaps everyone fails to appeal to Kevin, and Ben didn't realize how difficult it could be to defeat Kevin. Gwen then ends up using a dangerous spell that maybe cures Kevin by forcefully ripping the energy he stole away from him, which leaves Kevin in like a coma or like a deep sleep, where he has to confront all he's done. He has to think about the things he's said, the people he's hurt, and confront the toxic thoughts he had. This could add to his own arc. Meanwhile, the other characters are worried about Kevin, and as they calm down, they too confront their actions and apologize to each other. At first, when Kevin wakes up, he feels horrible. He doesn't know if anyone can forgive him, let alone if he could forgive himself. Kevin's mom could then maybe offer Devon's experience from the time that he had the incident. This gives Kevin hope. He meets with Gwen, Ben, other people he's hurt, and it feels like a lot of the emotions and conflict of the episodes have been confronted. Or the season could just end after Kevin's been cured, with this hint at the idea that they all have a journey to go on before it's all resolved, and we get some moments in season 2 where maybe Kevin didn't return home, maybe Gwen and Ben aren't exactly buddy-buddy, and we watch the relationships be rebuilt. But I guess we get this and have to be grateful. So, motion to remove Ultimate Alien Season 1 from my memories. All in favor say aye.